Episode 2 of Podcasting for Business. My name's James Whitaker. Joining me is my man Ronsley. How you doing, buddy?
I'm extremely well. How are you, James? I'm actually
Good.
having fun preparing for this show. So thanks for indulging in our experiments.
Hey, it's great. We had a technological issue in the last one. We've got all of those things rectified now. In this Podcasting for Business show, as you can probably guess, we're showing you how you can grow your audience, how you can get more clients, and create a leverageable asset out of your podcast. So if you're a business owner, hopefully you can use things like what we'll go through today, a lot of the tactics and the different things that we'll go to help you grow your business. If this is the first time that you've joined us, I know this is episode 2, so it very well might be. To give you an overview of some of the things that we're going to cover, we're going to start off with something called Useful Chatter, which will talk about podcasting and business news that's relevant for you to know. We're going to go through today's tactic. So, Ronzi, what have we got today on today's tactic that people can use to grow their business and improve their podcast?
Yeah, I mean it's a great one, especially if you are starting your podcast and you're in the initial stages. Especially if you want to create something unique and profitable for your business. Stick around for today's tactic.
Love it. We've also got a special guest expert, an amazing guy, Shawn in Southern California, just down the 405 from me. And finally, we're going to be covering a big mistake that business owners make with their podcast. It's something that I'm super passionate about, and that's having poor or no follow-up with the guest who's come onto your show. It's one of the easiest things in terms of people leaving opportunity on the table. This one is huge, so make sure you stick around for that. So we're going to kick off, and we also want to make sure that you're involved in this show. So we want to bring you into the conversation as much as we can. If you've got lessons or insights that you want to share from your own business or podcasting journey, please drop that into the comments. We want to make sure we can really make this as helpful as possible for everyone who's tuning in. And let's face it, the entrepreneurship journey is a road full of perils. That's why having the right people and the right plan around you and sharing those wins and losses is very, very valuable. Rons, why don't we kick off with a bit of news, the useful chatter of what's been happening around the world? What are you seeing?
Well, there's lots of really interesting things happening around the world. I think one of the things that we wanted to cover, maybe, I don't know whether I wanted to cover it, but I had called that Facebook was going to take audio seriously and take podcasts seriously, and they were going into audio rooms, and I got it wrong. So it seems like they're taking a back step on audio, and we've all got an email saying that they're not going to support podcasts anymore, but they have told us what they're going to support instead. But I'm kind of keen to hear from you, James, because you were around in our conversations when I called like the fact that audio is going to now be taken seriously. What are your thoughts on the whole thing that Facebook is kind of taking a back step?
Facebook is notorious for copying features they see from other people. Now, they were a very innovative company when they first launched. They just lost all their innovation, and they've acquired companies like Instagram and WhatsApp and so many of these other things. They've got some great partnerships. But now when we see Clubhouse, what happened with Clubhouse, how that just exploded last year in the last 18 months. And we've seen what happened with things like TikTok, the emerging video app that is now eating everyone's lunch. Facebook has been very, very quick to copy. They're busy trying to replicate these things, which means they know that it's really important that you want to make sure that you have at least some presence on these things. Otherwise, you get left very behind. That first and second and third mover advantage is very big when these new innovations, like what happened with audio, come through. So Facebook didn't do it particularly well. They were so busy with all of their Facebook Live tools, and then they launched their podcasting. I always thought it was weird. Like, you get the notification, but I never really saw any engagement as far as the podcast things that was published on my Facebook business page. I never really saw any engagement on even really well-known podcasts who were using that on Facebook. So I think they're just going to take the opportunity to streamline their live processes a little bit more. And a lot of people out there might be thinking, oh, wow, if Facebook is moving away from podcasts on their platform, is that a really bad sign for podcasts? And it's not. Podcasts are such a great way of being able to grow your business and build trust and share a lot of what you do to help people in terms of the solutions that you offer to help solve problems for an audience that you're passionate about. So, Rons, what do you think more broadly in terms about where audio is going to go from here?
No, it's fascinating because I think if you because I did some research after I got that email, and I wanted to know where they were putting their effort into, and they were putting all their effort into short form video content. So Reels is where everything is going. The a big announcement, May 4th, 2022. Reels updates, rewards for original content, expanded monetization opportunities, and new insights. So you see how they're going into Reels. There's rewards for original content. There's more expanded monetization opportunities, and there's new insights for Reels, which tells you a lot about why probably they've taken a back step from audio. But then also in our last show a couple of days ago, we found out that there was like a whole bunch of 1.8 million new podcast episodes. So that's been quite fascinating as to how many new podcast episodes are published in the last month. And then so in terms of podcasts, yeah, I mean it's been crazy because I've been on this journey convincing people about a podcast for their business, especially for the last 9 or 10 years, and I find that I'm always in a position where there is a bunch of people who are um, excited about it, and then there's a bunch of people who aren't. So it's always sort of the case.
And you know what? The one thing Facebook, before we get into today's tactic, the one thing that Facebook has going for it is it's got a massive monthly active user base. It's installed on pretty much every phone in the world. I mean, if you don't have Facebook, you might have Instagram. If you don't have Instagram, you might have WhatsApp. They have got a massive network. So with all of those existing people who have their apps installed on their mobile phones, they can incentivize people as creators. So they've been waiting for their time. And that's why now just creating Reels as a content creator, you can do okay in terms of being able to monetize the content that you're putting out there, which is a really great thing to be able to do. Rons, today's tactic, I'd love for you to give us a little bit of an insight into what we're going to cover today and why you think that's important for people with their business and podcast.
Amazing. So today's tactic is all around the unique podcast framework. It is basically how do you create a unique podcast for your business, and the idea is to make it unique and profitable, where you're growing your audience, you're growing your leads and opportunities and clients, right? So what does that look like? And the reason for these tactics are so that you can understand the thinking behind the concept. So not just say, okay, this is why you should create this type of a show. It's more like, well, this is the thinking behind why you should create this type of show. So it is something that I feel the more we do these tactics, the better I get to understand the concept I'm trying to explain. So unique and profitable podcast. If we want to create that, there are two things that need to occur. The podcast needs to be based on your truth, and it needs to be for your business, right? Hence the profitable part is for your business, and you make it unique. You got to base it on your truth. Now, we'll get into what your truth is in a different conversation. It's an entirely different conversation entirely, but the two things that need to happen. So unique and profitable podcast, base it on your truth and create it for your business. If you don't base it on your truth, you base it on other people's truth, right? So that's the opposite. And if you don't do it for your business, you obviously land up doing it for yourself. So what does that land up looking like if you break it down? If you land up doing it for yourself and you base it on other people's truth, it is just a learning podcast. Selfish is a hard word here, but it is the learning. It is the wheels, the training wheels. This is the learning podcast where even comedians do this, right? They copy even famous comedians always sort of started off copying their idols, I suppose. So you're basing it on other people's truth, and you're doing it for yourself. So you're creating a learning podcast. I mean, most people avoid this step, this spot, they kind of get into these yellow spots. So let's talk about that. If you're doing it for yourself and you're basing it on your truth, it is a hobby podcast because there is no follow up. You land up having pod fade because there is no um, money coming in, and it lands up becoming about you, but there's no service or impact for that podcast. If you create a podcast for your business and you base it on other people's truth, it's just another business copycat podcast, and you see them a lot. And it's something we all want to avoid. It is based on good intentions, but they don't work, and it also leads to pod fade. So what you want to do is be in this green box. And to be in this green box, you got to create it for your business and base it on your truth. And your truth is unique to you. It is your experience. It is basically how you see the world. Yeah, that is today's tactic.
Love it, Rons. Unique and profitable podcast. Who doesn't want one of them? I think that was fantastic. If something's landing for you, drop a comment and let us know. Again, we want to have you as involved in this as possible. If you've got any stories, lessons, even wins from your podcasting or business journey, please drop that in the comments too. Have we got Shawn on the line? If we don't, I can move into the big mistake.
No, we have Shawn on
There
the
we
line.
go. Look at that.
What is up,
Cali
gentlemen?
Barbecue Media in the house. Great to see you, my friend. Shawn, for those who don't know, is the founder of Cali Barbecue Media. He's a podcast host, business coach, restaurateur, and an all-round expert when it comes to growing your business. Shawn, it's so great to see you. Thanks for joining us today. To kick things off, what's the problem that you wanted to solve with your business, and why did it fall on your shoulders to do it?
The problem that we wanted to solve with our business, I think the biggest problem, so we own a restaurant. We own a barbecue restaurant in San Diego. And once we figured out how to sell great barbecue and once we figured out how to provide great hospitality, we thought that everyone was going to come knocking down our doors and lining up for brisket on NFL Sunday. Ultimately, that didn't happen. And what we realized is that if we didn't tell our own story, no one else would. We were hoping that people from newspapers, people from the local media, people from magazines would find out, and then, the business success story. Well, ultimately that didn't happen for us. And once we started embracing the thing that's in everyone's pocket, the smartphone and all the apps that are on there, and starting to get uncomfortable and sharing content on Facebook, and then it was Yelp, and then it was Google, and then it was our website, and eventually we found podcasting, and podcasting really took us to the next level. It turned us into a media company. So we are Cali Barbecue Media, and we have two podcasts, two weekly video podcasts. Now we have sponsors. I can't keep up with the amount of sponsors that keep coming to us. So I'm not even going out to them, but they are coming to us because we are speaking our truth and we are following our business thesis. And it's given us wild opportunities that we never thought possible.
Shawn, it's such a pleasure to meet someone who believes in podcasting as much as we do. And we've had these conversations before, and especially someone who loves food as much as I do. So, when you think about how you've made the jump, right? You've made the jump from food, which is a restaurant, which is a very, I suppose, traditional way of having a business. And then you've joined it with the online world. What were your biggest learnings, do you think, when going from making that jump, like going from the traditional to the online world, and how did you make that a media company?
So it's a great question. It gets to the heart of our first podcast, which is called Digital Hospitality. Digital hospitality is our thesis, and our thesis is that every business needs to be digital first, and every business needs to be in the hospitality business. The competitive advantage that we have as restaurant people is that hospitality is in our DNA. So one of the things that we do great in real life is taking care of people and making memorable moments. What we found once we started sharing our story online and figuring out all the different technologies that were available to small business owners for people to find your business and interact with your business was that a lot of business owners aren't good at hospitality online. So if we could transfer what we did in real life, if we could do that on Yelp, on Google, on Facebook, on Twitter, then we would stand above so many other small businesses. And it's been our ongoing thesis, and it's something that we teach other small business owners and restaurant owners all the time.
Shawn, you mentioned something at the start there, which was so impactful. You said, if you don't tell your own story, no one else will. If you don't tell your own story, no one else will. I think anyone out there who is resisting the idea of putting out content about what it is that you do, who you do it for, and those types of things is leaving a lot of opportunity on the table. For people out there who have recognized, cool, I'm at the point now, I want to tell my story. I want to start putting a lot of content out there. They want engaging content, obviously. What are the types of, any tips for people in terms of helping them create engaging content or telling their story?
Yeah, the biggest tip that we can say is be the show and not the commercial. The problem is everyone wants a commercial for their business. We want to have a commercial on Super Bowl Sunday that puts us in the best light, shows off our barbecue restaurant, how great we are, how great our brisket is, how great our team is. But ultimately, that's not what the internet wants. The internet wants truth. The internet wants you. One of the crazy things is business owners, all the people listening to this show, all the people that will consume this content, you can't be a business owner if you're not great in real life at convincing people about your crazy dream. If you are not great at convincing people in real life about your crazy dream, you won't have a business. You won't get funding. You won't convince your wife. You won't convince your spouse. You won't convince the people around you. You won't motivate a village. Ultimately, you do that in real life. But when it comes to the internet, when it comes to voice, when it comes to audio, when it comes to images, when it comes to words on the internet, people get scared. And they can't be scared. You have to learn how to do the reps, because if you don't post that first video, you'll never make a great second video. If you don't publish that first podcast, you'll never make a great second podcast. It's taken us 5 years to the point till we monetized our podcast. That's a long journey, but I can tell you, I would never do it otherwise. And I tell every business owner how valuable it is, because this is early.
Shawn, I love your energy, and I love the fact that you talk about the things that are really important rather than the tactic, right? Because the tactic is this shiny bicycle that we all want to ride because we know how to ride it. And the heart and the reason behind all this stuff comes, what you just mentioned, because when someone is a business owner and they're kind of doing this dream of theirs, hearing that hopefully makes a big difference, because I've been in business for a while and me hearing that makes a big difference. So thank you for that. The question I wanted to get to was, you speak a lot about using your phone as in terms of capturing audience. I'd love for you to talk a bit more about that, and maybe get to the how do we start to think about using our phone? How do we start to think of the basics? I mean, yeah, we know it has a camera, but then what do we do with it? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So we talk about what we call smartphone storytelling. We take for granted. My son was born on June 29th, 2017, and I was in the hospital with my wife. She's the hero of our family. It was very significant, my firstborn son. And I was on Google searching what significant has happened on June 29th. And I found out that June 29th, 2007, 10 years prior to that, was when the first iPhone came out. Now, I talk about that a lot on our podcast when I go and I speak to other business owners, because it's not a long time ago. 2007 is not a long time ago. And we take the technology that we have in our pocket for granted. My grandfather's from Bulgaria. He immigrated over here. He would write a letter to his sister that would take 6 months and cost close to $100 to get to Bulgaria, the other side of the earth. I married a Bulgarian woman. My wife is on Viber every single day in HD with her grandmother in the village for free. So it's like, we have the technology to do this stuff, to podcast, to publish video content, to write blogs. And back to the tactics are understanding that if you don't learn how to do it, somebody else is going to learn how to do it, and someone else is going to get the opportunities that are in any product category. For us, back to our story, we have so many sponsors that want to pay for content for us, and all we're doing is documenting things in our restaurant that most restaurant owners wouldn't talk about. So we're talking about the technology in our restaurant. Toast is a title sponsor of our show. They're our point of sale partner. We made a Toast unboxing video the same way that my son, 4-year-old son, watches kids unbox Hot Wheels, monster trucks. Those kids that he follows, they make $20 million a year on YouTube. But most business owners don't think if I publish content about my restaurant technology, who's going to care? Well, a lot of people care. Everyone at Toast cares. Every one of their competitors cares. Everybody in restaurant technology cares. And other restaurant owners care because somebody finally had the courage to share the pain points that they were going through.
So huge, Shawn. I mean, Brandon Adams talks on here about the video that you don't post won't help you. We've spoken about today that the podcast you don't publish won't help you. I mean, just having content out there is a massive thing. To finish up, last question. If you had to boil your success down to a single attribute, what would it be?
Curiosity. Definitely,
Mm.
it's curiosity and consistency. If you're not curious, if you don't want to do the things, and it's willing to be uncomfortable and look stupid. If I wasn't willing to look stupid, sound stupid, do things that I was uncomfortable with, we would never be where we are today. And I try to encourage that and lead by example for the rest of my team to know that I'm willing to make a TikTok video, that I'm willing to podcast, and I'm willing to go on stage to share our story. Because back to the beginning, no one's going to tell your story. No one's coming. It's up to you.
That's a real. I mean, this point. I want to sort of jam on this point, if we may, for a little while, because I think that it is such an important point right there. Because we all face it. I don't know whether you still are you. I don't know whether you still face it, Shawn. I still face it, where I'm like, I've got to put this content out here right now because everyone sees me as the expert, and I've got to figure it all out right. We've got to look not like we're amateur hour. I don't know where I got that term from, but we've got to make sure that we're not amateur hour. How do you stop that chatter? How do you deal with that chatter in your brain?
It's a great question, and I think it's important for people like us that publish a lot of content that do it all the time. I know James does a great job of sharing his vulnerabilities. I went to MureTech, a Vegas conference for multi-unit restaurants. I got asked to speak because of the content that we do on our podcast, because of posting videos on LinkedIn. And when I was there before my speech, I was like, I'm going to do a quick selfie video, 60 seconds, talking about where I am, documenting that I'm going to be giving this speech today, tag our partners, talk about our technology partners. And I didn't want to do it. I didn't feel like doing it, but I pushed through it. I hit record. I wasn't really happy with it. And obviously, the more takes that I do, that always the worse it gets. But ultimately, what did I do? I published that video. And I was one of the only speakers that published that video. It got shared by the organizers. It got shared by the tech companies we were talking about. It's given me opportunities to go and do other stuff. And it's crazy because after 14 years of doing all this different stuff on my smartphone, I still run into it. But ultimately, I know that if I don't hit publish, no one else will. And the more that I hit publish, the chances are, and it's crazy too, because I want the video to do well, but I don't even care. I just did a video on TikTok that didn't do well about going to Chicago for National Restaurant Association, but I know that no one else is on TikTok creating content for that. So eventually, at some point, someone's going to search that hashtag, and guess whose video is going to come up? It's going to be me. Guess who's going to be answering that sponsor email? It's going to be me. How do we do content with you? How do we pay you to be there? How do we pay you to be on your show? All of that stuff, like we're so early. So whoever's listening to this, like we say, stay curious, get involved, ask for help. You guys are the best because you're literally creating the framework where business owners, they are given the answers. Like you guys, you have done so many incredible things. You've made the mistakes and you're willing to help these business owners get to the point where I am.
Dude, I want to commend you on a whole bunch of things because it's like you're speaking my language, right? It's just so on point. I feel that when you're talking about this journey, I really want to ask you this particular question because you found so many cool ways to monetize your podcast. If you think about it, like you found all these different avenues from this media that you started to create. So when you think of your podcast and you think about ROI, what are the different ways that you get a return on your investment from your podcast?
I mean, to be honest with you, it's a great question because we get asked all the time. You guys get asked all the time, what's the ROI? And the ROI is opportunity. I mean, the ROI is what pulls me out of bed every morning. I will do podcasting for the rest of my life. I believe in storytelling more than I believe in anything. Every single person that on earth that is in a village, if they sell food, they can learn something from my podcast. And it's up to me to find the biggest, the brightest, the best people on earth to help share the story of what has been able to give us a voice. Every single story has a voice. Every person in every village has a voice. And if they find the content, this is the greatest time ever to be alive and to be in business.
Dude.
Yeah, we haven't even touched on relationships and the expertise that you get by preparing for these interviews and everything else. I mean, the opportunity that is created from that, Shawn, as you said, is so impactful. Everyone is trying to calculate the ROI of that right now. But it's more like, what would
Yep.
you pay to have access to literally billion-dollar opportunities 5 years, 10 years down the track? I mean, I've been on podcasts now for about 4.5 years. I've had my own podcast for just over 3 years. I feel I've had things that have transformed my life like nothing I've ever seen before. And
Yep.
I feel like I'm scratching the surface of the benefits and opportunities that come from having a podcast. So I think you're absolutely spot on. Shawn, where is the best place for people to go and learn more about you apart from calibarbecue.media, which everyone should go to right now?
Yeah, easiest place is at Shawn P. Walchef, ShawnPWalchef on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. You can follow our podcast at Restaurant Influencers or Digital Hospitality. But yeah, we love what we do. We're always happy to help. And anybody that's a podcaster, we believe a rising tide lifts all ships. That's why we love the work that you guys do. You give so generously to the podcasting community and to the business community. So whenever you need anything, you let us know.
Bro, we can't wait to hang out. I'm actually in the States end of June, beginning of July. So we want to find a way to see you, hang out with
Hopefully
you.
end of June. July I'll be in Bulgaria, so let's make it into June.
All right, let's do that. And I think that one of the things that really impresses me about you is you convey exactly the thing that he's supposed to convey, in the sense that you don't you don't find another reason to look good in terms of what has just happened. You just kind of literally say it the way it is. And I love that about you. I love the fact that we've connected and we get to hang out, especially like this. So thank you. And likewise, if you need anything from us, by the way, please, we love what you do.
I appreciate that. I still have. What's your big ass, Ronsley? Because I'm still working on Tim Ferriss for James. I got to get Tim Ferriss on James's show.
Oh, is that
You
you?
put
So
that
you
out in
keep
the universe.
you,
So what,
you keep
Ronsley?
you keep people's yeah. I think for me, getting together maybe 500 people in LA would be super cool. That podcast for business.
500? That's all you need.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
all you need. We can make that happen. I will help you make that happen.
500 people in LA. We are Podcast for Business, and we have a whole bunch of podcasters and business owners in the same room. That would be fucking amazing, exciting to come
Done.
together.
Let's do it. I'm
Yeah.
in.
Yeah,
All my resources. You got it.
Thank you, bro. Thank you for doing this with us.
I love it, Shawn. What an absolute legend. Thank you so much for being here today. Go and connect with Shawn on all of those channels that he mentioned before. I want to just mention something here as well. He said, if you don't tell your own story, no one else will. If you don't tell your own story, no one else will. I think that's so impactful. Rons, how did you feel? Anything that